I mean, whether it's depressing because they were a child who was raped and didn't know how to talk about it, or they were a person with a health problem, found out they had cancer, or something like my situation. There's nobody who has like a whimsical 22-week abortion. And it strikes me as almost crazy that they have decided to target these abortions as their slippery slope, but they have. And I think that the number of stories that have come out to try and really reframe that discussion are important. And I do want to urge everybody listening to take a look at what your state has done, because I guarantee you, even in the last year, I bet, in your state, some idiot is trying to get a terrible abortion law through, both on a national level, but states are really where this battle is being fought and lost. As I mentioned, I live in Connecticut, which I think most people understand to be quote-unquote very blue. However, Connecticut's laws are considerably more regressive than New Jersey, where I came from. It has this sort of fuzzy term of viability.
Mm-hmm.
So in Connecticut, they use this fuzzy viability measure, but it's roughly around 20 weeks is the legal understanding, I guess. They actually prohibit all abortions in Connecticut after viability, whatever that might be, except for the life or health of a mother. So I would have been forced to carry this pregnancy. I can tell you that since I have moved here and randomly told strangers my story, I had at least 2 people tell me that they had an abortion in a similar circumstance, and they left the state, including one woman who went out of the country because it was easier to get an abortion at 21 weeks in India than it was in Connecticut. So, I mean, that's ridiculous. And there have been laws in Connecticut that have been even more regressive that have been proposed in this current year's state legislature. And without vocal opposition, these laws just slipped through. And the left is really losing the battle at the state and local levels. One thing I did not realize is that in 19 states, they require you bringing in a second doctor for a second opinion before you can get an abortion after a certain point. Again, usually in that 20-week ballpark. Only 32 states only allow you to use Medicaid funds to pay for an abortion when the mother's life is in danger, or rape or incest, or in cases of rape or incest. So again, a case like mine, which I think, is not, again, it's not I wouldn't die without it, would not be covered by Medicaid. And in 45 states, individual healthcare providers are allowed to refuse to do an abortion for any reason, really. And in 42 states, they allow entire institutions, so like an entire hospital can prohibit it. And in 16 of those states, it does only apply to private, but that means the rest of them can be public institutions. So like public hospitals could. 18 states are right now requiring state-mandated counseling before you can get an abortion on either that alleged cancer risk, the alleged breast cancer risk. That's in 5 states. Or, the fetal ability to feel pain. That's in 13 states. And or long-term mental health issues for women after an abortion. Now, all these are like very spurious claims. Like, these aren't like real science claims. These are political points that they're requiring women to get counseling on. And I think this is one that I think is the most concerning to me as a mom. is that 37 states now have laws in the books that require parental involvement of some sort. 26 states actually require the parents to give actual consent. In some cases, it's both parents. And 11 states require just merely, quote unquote, notification. And at this point, 17 states have essentially what fundamentally is basically an abortion ban after 20 weeks. Now, I mean, the legality of all these things are being challenged, but political pressure has got to be like a piece of this. And as I said, these like trap laws are coming fast and furious. No matter how safe you think your state is, it is not safe.
Well, and the proof that public pressure works is Illinois.
Mm-hmm.
Terrible Republican governor just signed a great bill saying that Medicaid can be used for abortions, and that abortions will remain legal even if Roe v. Wade is overturned. So, that would not have happened without public pressure.
It's so important. I think one of the things that I have done that is extremely lazy person's activism, because I just kids and local politics and Trump and all this stuff. So if I have to do something, but I still care about this issue so much, is I've signed up for local alerts from my Connecticut Planned Parenthood chapter, and what they do is they send out like a text alert, an action alert for everything that comes up in our local state government that I should be responding to. So there is probably an equivalent program in most states from your Planned Parenthood. So definitely worth looking into for the lazy activist like myself.
Hey, any activism is good activism.
That's what I tell myself. Yeah, so I mean, I guess the main thing I try and get out there to people I talk to is just that after all this, I think some people felt like I should somehow feel like my abortion was like better than the 18-year-old in the waiting room there. Because I mean, I was talking to the woman who was one of the like people who worked at the clinic. She's like one of the counselors there, and you have to have a meeting with her and whatever. And she pulled me aside. She's like, "I'm so sorry. You have to be in there with everybody else. Just the regular abortions." And I was like, it's no big deal. Like, all these people are making a good decision for their lives, and I'm making a good decision for my son's life and mine too. And I don't think it's that I had a good abortion and their abortion was like something that I have a moral high ground over. It's really given me a good perspective on this is just something that everybody needs to weigh on their own conscience and their own life and figure out where they come out on which side of it for themselves. And sitting there with I was sitting next to a girl who, she's got to be like 18, 19 years old, college girl. And, I'm crying into, my husband's shoulder, and she's texting, and I don't feel any kind of way about that. Except that we're both having to go through way too many hoops to take care of ourselves.
Walking into the clinic, were the protesters right outside as you were going in?
So there was a church group. So Christian, super helpful. Standing across the street. I think that they had probably had some bad experiences of people probably like not taking well to their particular protest, which was very like holding the signs and stuff. But yeah, it's a narrow street in that particular town, and it's, they're right there, but not super close. But then there were also some, I don't know, like street counselors, I guess. I'm not really sure what kind of situation that woman was, but I mean, it's sort of, this is like kind of funny. So because the later abortions were like the first appointment of the day, and you have to wait for the guy to do, to set up the like metal detector and everything to get into the clinic. I was a little early, and I was kind of like waiting to be let in outside with these street counselors. I guess I just assumed, because they were milling about very nervously and talking to people, and I guess I just assumed that she was also getting an abortion. It was just super chatty. The couple women they were just like fellow abortion seekers who love to talk. And one of them came up to me and was like, so, and I guess she thought I was like with them, because I was like the most visibly pregnant person still outside. And they were like, kind of like, oh, obviously you're not getting an abortion. You look really pregnant. And I was like, no, I'm going in for my abortion. I'll see you later. And she, tried to engage with me a little bit about, while my husband was parking the car. Good for her, because that would have been a bad scene. She tried to engage with me about how I shouldn't go in, and I realized that that's what they were doing to all the women who were standing there waiting to get in. They were trying to have what I'm sure they thought were very meaningful one-on-one conversations with these women on an incredibly shitty day of their lives. I'm not really sure, what makes a person think that's a good way to counsel to anybody. I'm a church person, actually. I go to church, and I just can't imagine, I don't know, I have a very distinct idea of very chill Birkenstocks Jesus, and he would not be cool with this. I feel like the Jesus that I have a relationship with religiously would be like, hey, can I walk you into the abortion clinic? You seem like you're having a shit day. And it just, yeah. So that was most of my experience. Now, I guess because you're not allowed to park near the clinic because you might have a bomb. I guess when my husband got back from parking the car down the street, he was also stopped by, I'm not totally sure if it was like a different religious group. He said it was a guy, a minister type, who tried to read to him from the Bible about how he was going to hell for enabling his like whorish girlfriend, I guess they must have. It's just so funny because my husband's like the most buttoned up professional guy. I'm not sure what image they had there. They were trying to get him to, I don't know, like to refrain from going in, and he actually turned around and told the guy, listen, this is my wife, this is our son, we've named him, and this is a terrible medical situation, and this is a terrible day, and you are a bad person. And and then he hung up his hat and never did it again. No, I'm sure he totally just did it like 5 minutes later, but I like to imagine he hung up his hat and never did it again. Really repented.
We can only hope.
Yeah. Yeah. Hearts and minds.
Yeah. Well, I want to thank you for sharing your story with us. I'm sure that it's not easy to talk about, but it's really, it's an important story for people to hear. It was an important story for me to hear when it happened, and it continues to be something that I reflect on. And I went, not just your story, but a lot of stories of women I've known. I went from not sure I was at all okay with abortion to saying no, abortion should be legal in every situation. So
right.
I think it's important to hear those stories.
Yeah, I agree. And the more I talk about it with people, the more I get emails from friends or acquaintances or people I don't know at all. I have gotten Facebook messages from people I've never met just telling me, I've never told anybody about this, but I have to tell someone. So anyway, thank you so much for having me, though. It's really good to just to know that people are getting something out of the experience, and I like the idea of our sons